this shit up. We're gonna get stuck when it's your birthday. And you got a Nintendo, my fire red, my leaf green, hard as a diamond with the platinum sheen. I'm actually mean and I don't mean average.
What's up, my Wizards Dev? SBMTG down there in magic stuff on YouTube. Today, in the last like 48 hours, really, we've seen like 11 different spoilers for Shadows of Innistrad, and a lot of them are really interesting cards, and some of them will have a huge effect on possibly multiple formats. We'll see. And what I'm going to do is actually make a top 10 list out of that by putting them in the order of their relevance, at least from what I can tell. So let's look at that. How do you make a top 10 list out of 11 cards? Honorable mention. So my honorable mention today is Shard of Broken Glass, which is actually kind of a cumbersome name. I wish it was just like Shard of Glass or Broken Glass or whatever. But, you know, this doesn't look like a great card to begin with. The art is kind of cool, which is a trend that we'll see throughout a lot of these. The art is really spot on in this set. But as far as this goes, this does seem like a way in draft or limited really period to, you know, make Delirium work for you. That could be a thing. Just really any graveyard-based strategy you want to work out of your graveyard, this could help you in limited at least. So, and it helps you, you know, equip certain creatures that need to be equipped for things to happen. We'll get to one of those a little bit later. So, you know, it has its reasons to be around. It's just kind of a cool card, and this is one of those interesting designs. And we'll see a couple of those as we go through the list. Really interesting design in this set, so just wanted to point this out because it had to go somewhere on the list. My number 10 of the cards we've seen in the last couple of days here is Incorrigible Youths. I love the name of the card, first of all. Incorrigible Youths, little scamps. Then you look at the art, and it's just like a bunch of vampire kids tearing this guy apart. It's like a bunch of Blood Barons. People like the art for Blood Barons so much, they were just like, what if we made one where it's a bunch of little kids that were freaky as hell? And so, again, the art will give you nightmares, but the card is pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of Reckless Worm in some ways, you know. But even cooler, I'd always see if Reckless Worm had haste instead of trample, that'd be really cool. You just like sacrifice a point of toughness, I think, you know. Yeah, that's all. So the card is actually not that bad, especially getting limited, but I don't think you'll see really any constructed play, but the card is good at limited. Number 9 is super cute. This is Aberrant Researcher, and it's a callback, and it's a sort of way to fix Delver of Secrets, you know. Basically, this enters play as though you had already flipped Delver of Secrets, you know. It's like Insectile Aberration. It's a 3/2 flyer, same stats, same ability, whatever. But then, when you flip it in the exact same manner that you flip a Delver of Secrets, by the way, it becomes a 5/4 flyer. That seems pretty good, but again, I think this is mostly just for limited play. I think it's really priced out of constructed formats. Although we'll have to see, you know, it might have a place in Standard and something. I'm just not really sure. 4 mana is an awful lot, and you can't really flip it until your 5th turn. It's, you know, I'm just not a huge fan of that, but as a fixed Delver of Secrets, it's at least a cute callback to another card, you know, and it won't be anywhere near as important as that one. But, you know, again, in limited environments, seems like a pretty good thing to try and do. And I know that a 4 mana 5/4 flyer essentially is pretty darn good, but I'm just, you know, I said it might see standard play, but at the end of the day, I'm just not really seeing it. Let me know if you feel any different. Here's my number 8 pick. It's Abyssinian Missionaries, and this is actually my pick for like best flavor of all these cards today, and maybe best flavor I've seen in a really long time, actually. Brain in a bottle or brain in a jar is pretty darn good, don't get me wrong. But this, I just love for lots of different reasons. The fact that it comes into play as a missionary, and it's all, you know, they're nice, trying to help people. And then as soon as you arm them, they become Inquisitors. That's hilarious to me. Really good flavor win on that, and it's actually not a bad card. Again, I'm not sure that it's priced for standard play. I'm not totally sold on that. But it is cool that you get a 4/4 and you get to exile the best thing on their side of the board. Not only that, it's a 4/4 that's equipped, so it's probably bigger than that, you know. So there's a lot of reasons to try this in standard. I'm just not sold. Again, though, in limited, this card is super duper bomb, and we'll see all the freaking play because it's removal that gives you a big dude while you're doing it, which is the same reason it might see standard play. We'll have to see. I'm just not sold. My number 7 pick is Tamiyo's Journal, which is probably my pick for like best design of the day. The design is really cool on this, although a 5 mana legendary artifact. It's really priced out of standard play, I would say, really any play outside of maybe Commander. I could see this in EDH. It's just a really well-designed card, you know. It does a lot of cool stuff, you know. Just, you know, during your upkeep or beginning of your upkeep, you get a clue. That's cool. Clues. In case, I don't know that I've even talked about Investigate, but during your upkeep Investigate, you get a clue artifact, and you can pay 2 generic, sack it to draw a card. It's actually a little bit better than it reads, I would say. Just the Investigate mechanic, period. It reads a little wonky, but it might be pretty good. And then you can tap this and sack any 3 clues. You're able to tutor up any card that you want and put it into your hand. That's actually a bunch of cool things right there. And again, maybe Commander play. I think it's priced out of seeing play anywhere else. But, you know, I just wanted to call out the design of the card. I think it's really, really cool. And people will try to make it work. It'll probably be a pet card for some players. But just really, really expensive for constructed play. My number 6 pick is Bygone Bishop, which is maybe a little bit better than I think it is. It all depends on what we get with the Investigate mechanic in this set. I think we're going to see way more with that. Bygone Bishop, though, decent stats on its own. A 3-mana 2/3 flyer, ain't too shabby, honestly. And then on top of that, we get to investigate whenever we cast a creature with CMC 3 or less. That's not bad, and it's cool that we get it on the cast and not like when the thing enters the battlefield or something like that. Although that'd be good for other reasons. But still on the cast, you know, we get a clue that basically, even if they counter the creature, that we still get a clue. So that's a thing. Spell doesn't have to resolve. But in any case, I want to talk about Investigate for just a second. Cards like this make me think that maybe we'll see an enchantment, possibly an artifact. That's like when, you know, you can sacrifice clues, or whenever a clue enters the battlefield under your control, maybe, you put a counter on the artifact or the enchantment, and then when it's got X amount of, you know, counters on it, you win the game. Something like that. I don't know if they'll go that, like, balls deep with the mechanic. We'll see. But there's going to be something that you're supposed to do with all of these clues to make a resolution to the case that you're trying to solve. You know, that just seems like the logical thing to do from a design perspective. So we'll see. But I like the card. Interesting, you know, good stats, and cool that you can basically, whenever you cast a small guy, you can pay 2 and draw a card. That's, you know, it's not bad. That seems all right, but we'll see. We'll see. Number 5 is where I really get to talk about constructed playability. This is Pick the Brain, and this card looks innocuous at first, but I actually think that it has some pretty cool implications. First of all, both in Standard and Modern, the Eldrazi are big things, and they like when you get to exile stuff. So it's always cool to be able to exile things from their hand. Back in the day, we played Coercion in black decks, and that was a fine card, and that was nowhere near the card that this is. This is a pretty decent card, being able to just, especially on the play, this card is fantastic. Getting to take their 3-drop out of their hand. On the draw even, you get to take their 4-drop out of their hand. Usually, you know, if you're an aggro-based deck, which you probably won't be playing this, but you get to take removal and stuff out of their hand if you want to. Even in mid-range, you can do that. And then in the control deck, you get to take, you know, big threats out of their hand and stuff. Just seems like this could be pretty good, and it's got that Delirium ability tacked on there that looks tacked on, but extract abilities are actually super duper dope. And in a format like Modern, I don't know that you make room for something like this. It looks very expensive, but it definitely seems like it'd be very easy to get Delirium by the time you're able to cast this, and just, you know, basically extract their big, kind of like Scape Shift, whatever, you know, they're trying to do. Seems like you could just extract that and leave them with no options. So against certain decks, this is an interesting sideboard piece if the deck is comfortable getting Delirium by the 3rd or 4th turn, which with Thought Scour and a, you know, bunch of other stuff that, you know, in format, that could be easy enough. Fetch lands will be in Modern still, so maybe, you know. But I just think the card is a little bit better than it looks, and I've talked about it too long already, but just remember that Eldrazi love to exile things and then process them, so I can see something like this seeing at least Standard play. But from here on out is when we get to talk about some stuff that I think will definitely, certainly see constructed play. Numbers 4 through 1 are all just like phenomenal cards, as far as I can tell. Number 4 is Aire of Falconwrath, and I wish you could see my reaction when I first saw this card. It's just like completely freaking blown away, and I can't even recreate my reaction. It's just like, I'm amazed that this card exists. You know, it doesn't look amazing to some people, but honestly, a 2-mana 3/2 flyer is what you're looking at. That is also a discard outlet for reanimation strategies, madness, which is a thing we know for sure in this this set. So just all kinds of reasons why you might want to discard things, right? Discard outlets are for that you don't even have to pay mana to discard things. That's always actually really good. Putrid Imp is a good card for reanimation and madness strategies. We already see that. That's a legendary card. Not like an actual legendary creature, but a card that a lot of people love. This is another free discard outlet. You only get to discard the 1 card. I understand that. But still really good for madness. It's going to be great in Standard. And at the end of the day, you know, 2nd turn, you get a 3/2 flyer. That is amazing for black aggro, or black aggro base decks that splash another color, white, red perhaps. So just this card's going to see a lot of play, I would imagine. I feel fairly safe in calling this is, at least in budget decks, going to see a ton of play. And this could be one of those dollar uncommons. I have no idea, but this card to me looks absolutely bonkers. So yay, Aire of Falconwrath. I'm very excited for black aggro. My number 3 is Giralf's Masterpiece. I think this card is much better than some people read it at first, and there's already a lot of talk about this. I definitely think it's mythic for a reason. You can essentially cast this at instant speed out of your graveyard by discarding 3 cards and paying a splashable 3 and a blue. That's incredible. It's a 5 mana. Outside of that, a 5 mana 7/7 flyer. Those are good stats. Of course, the only drawback is that it gets -1/-1 for each card in your hand. If you're playing a control deck, that seems like a terrible drawback, but you can keep 3 cards in your hand, you got a 4/4 flyer, that's not bad. When you're down to just 1 or 2 cards, the thing is way bigger and sort of rewards you in a control deck for not having cards in your hand, which is usually disastrous in control. But if you're down to just a couple of cards or whatever, this actually is a better card. You never see that in control. Control always gets punished for having fewer cards in its hand, usually by losing the game because it doesn't have all its options. But this is a reason in control to not have as many cards. That's actually a cool thing. Outside of that, just remembering that you can cast it, that's not a sorcery ability. You can do that whenever you want. Discard 3, bring it back. That's good for reanimation strategies. I've decided to hold over the Solar Flare deck until this set came out. Now I'm glad I did. This is a perfect creature for Solar Flare, allowing you to put things into your graveyard. You put this into your graveyard, and you discard more things into your graveyard. This comes back into play, and then you can reanimate something else, you know? This fuels Madness very, very well. So imagine discarding 3 cards with Madness. And really, you're just going to discard 1, tops probably 2, but that can just be a situation that leads to a ton of value. I can't really stress how much I like this card. I'm very, very excited to see what this card does in the format. If anything, I could be completely off base, but I'm pretty sure this card is amazing. Number 2, we're getting down here. Number 2 is Declaration in Stone. Declaration in Stone is amazing. We can all agree that even though it's sorcery speed, I know it's sorcery speed, that's going to hurt its playability an awful lot, but it still exiles a thing, and they really get like minimal upside. You know, they get a thing that's like pay 2 generic, draw a card. That's cool, you know, it sucks they get to draw a card, whatever, but exiling a guy for a splashable 1 and a white is just, that's unbelievable. That is great removal, and I'm glad that we're seeing white now picking up the mantle of removal a little bit more, you know. We still have Silk Wrap in white. We got a couple of other things, don't get me wrong, but this is just a premium, absolutely gorgeous piece of removal right here. So I can't wait to play with it. It's going to be good in control decks, you know, it exiles things. That's awesome for processing as far as Eldrazi goes. So you're going to be using it in those decks too. I should also point out, actually, before I move on quickly, that of course, if you hit tokens with this, it wipes out all the tokens, and they don't get to investigate. That's ridiculous. You see a lot of things in the format, even after the rotation that'll, you know, make tokens. So yay against, you know, Nissa decks, Gideon decks, all the things that create tokens, Secure the Waste, whatever, you know, Hangerback Walker, P and Quran, all those, screw you. We have something awesome against you now. My number 1, though, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have called it because there's been a lot of discussion about the card already, is Relentless Dead. This card is absolutely ridiculous. 2 mana, 2/2. They tack on Menace to make it harder to block and make you know that you're supposed to play it. That could be all the stats. 2 black, 2/2 Menace, and it would be a playable uncommon in like draft. But they decided that they want this card to be a force in standard. So what they did is they said when it dies, you can pay black, pop it back to your hand. Also, when it dies, you can do a second thing. You can do both of them if you want to. I want to point that out. But when it dies, you can pay generic X whatever color mana. That's awesome. Just X generic. You return another zombie creature from your graveyard with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. To the battlefield. That's all. Everything the card does is amazing. Like Mono Black Sacrifice is still going to be a deck in the format, and this just goes so well with everything, you know. So it goes really well with Nantuko Husk, which by the way is a zombie, so you can pop that back onto the battlefield when this thing dies. By the way, Fleshbag Marauder is also, I believe, a zombie. So that's pretty, yes it is. It's also a zombie, so you're able to pop that back on the battlefield, make them sacrifice a guy, and just put the flesh bag right back in, sacrifice the flesh bag, you know, and you'll be able to do this over and over. That's a cool trick in and of itself, and gets around things like Ojutai and other hexproof creatures. So Fleshbag Marauder could go really well with this. I'd like to see a really good 1-drop zombie. I don't know if we'll see it. We do have like Shambling Goblin, which actually has cool implications with this card when you think about it, but everything the card does in like Aristocrats or Mono Black Sacrifice decks is going to be quite welcome. And 2 of these, by the way, loop. You can loop them over and over. That's awesome too. So just Relentless Dead, you are just... Everybody's already discussing the very, very, very many possibilities of this card and already slotting it into black aggro, slotting it into Aristocrats decks that splash green or splash white. You know, just... lots and lots of things that can be done with this, and we just saw Declaration in Stone. That's going to help stop this card a little bit. We already see a safety valve and a bunch of other ones, complete disregard, some other stuff in the format, but Flame Tendrils, you know. But this is just good no matter what safety valves are available in the format, I think. Just read this card. It might be playing Modern, you know. People are talking about this card in Legacy. So this is just an incredible 2-drop, and it's another thing that could make Black Aggro a real possibility. Taking over the mantle from Atarka Red, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. But Black Aggro might be real in this format, and this card might be real in Eternal format. So pay close attention to what people do with this card, because it's going to be a definite player in Magic. What's up, everybody? Actually, before we go here, while I was editing, or actually while I was sitting down to edit this video, they spoiled this, which is probably just as impactful as anything I've talked about in the entire video today. This is the coolest thing I've seen so far, and I really, really like Relentless Dead, but this is Avacyn. Avacyn's back, everybody. Archangel Avacyn costs 5 mana for a 4/4 flying vigilance flash, which is going to be really, really important to the function of the card. When it enters the battlefield, your guys gain indestructible until end of turn. But when one of your creatures does die, you flip it. When it flips, it transforms into a 6/5 flyer. And when it does transform also, it lightning bolts every creature on the field and every player for 3 damage. That's just, look at all the things the card does, and imagine the implications considering it has flash. During your opponent's combat step, you can play this, give all your guys indestructible, then maybe sacrifice a guy to an mtgo husk. That seems good enough right there. He dies. Then you flip the Archangel into the red version over the 6/5 flyer. It deals 3 to everything on the board, but hey, your guys are indestructible. Their guys aren't. And their guys are still going to take combat damage too in that situation. So just all of the amazing implications with this thing right here. It's going to make them very scared of swinging if they think they might be facing up against an Archangel in your hand. So, I mean, I just saw this card for the first time maybe 2-3 minutes ago before I started recording this, so that was the first thing I could think of, is that, like, even if you can't flip it, this is an amazing card to play during their combat step, first of all. But if you can flip it, it just gets dumb. And I was talking about with Relentless Dead how black-white sacrifice might be a thing. Yeah, I think it definitely is at this point. Black-white aristocrats might be bad because this looks absolutely stupid, especially if you can flip it. But there's plenty of value sort of even if you can't. So at the top of the curve for a lot of, you know, white-based decks, this probably is going to be a very important card. So look out for her. I'm really, really hyped about this if you can't tell. So this is the other number one, I guess, for this video. We'll call it that. I'm comfortable putting it there. This is just as good. You know, I'm just as happy and hyped about this as I am Relentless Dead. This card is ridiculous. That's all I got for today. What's coming up next? All of you who want decks, and I know there's a bunch of you out there that don't have cons or fate in them, I've got a couple of ideas. I want to know what you want to see next. Here's my ideas. Azorius Tempo could do that. Black-White Eldrazi Control could do that. And I'm also working on a video that's going to actually be a couple of different, you know, decks in one video. That's basically all the possibilities that aggro has moving forward in the format. You know, we won't be able to play the Atarka Red deck as we know it anymore. So do we play, you know, Red-Green Landfall? Do we play Mono-Black? I've already talked about that. Red-Black, you know, Black Splash Red. Allies. There's a lot of things we can do. Elves are still in the format. What else do we have? Goblins written down here. So there's a lot of different things we can try and do with aggro. But which one is the best, and sort of what are our options in each thing? So also working on that for you. Let me know which of these videos you'd like to see the most. I'll go ahead and punt it out because they're all almost ready. That's all I got for now, ladies and gentlemen. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you're new. Do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks. Sincerely, thank you very much for watching, my wizards. In case you're wondering, Ziggy is still down there. I don't know if you can see him on camera. Oh, the big stretch from the baby. Say bye, Ziggy. You're not, because you're sleepy. You're not going to say bye, you sleepy bear.